Welcome to the Northeast Kingdom Voice. I'm your host, Scott Wheeler. Today's guest is Mathew Strong, a contributor with the Ethan Allen Institute. We're here today to talk about the gubernatorial election. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Scott, for having me, for allowing me to come and talk to you about it.
Yeah, we're going to talk about the governor's race and the lieutenant governor's race because, I really think I've figured out the governor's race. If you wanted to open up your wallet and bet me, I would bet you a lot of money. I know who's going to win that race. But I have a little. So do you. Have a little inside track on some of the characters. In a previous chapter of my life, I served in the state house. I know every one of them who's running for lieutenant governor, and I know a couple of them really well who's running for governor.
Yeah.
And of course, you're the son of a legislator,
yes.
The famed representative Vicky Strong,
yes.
who's been on my show, and has also been on my radio show.
Nice. Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely an exciting race to follow, the intersection of national politics and how it's influencing state politics, as well as just significant change in the state governance landscape, with Shumlin not seeking re-election and the fallout from the legislative session over the past 6-7 years now has created an opportunity for a pretty big swing back to the right in terms of local elections and statewide races.
I haven't served in the state house with now Governor Shumlin, and having recorded history and including having a guest on my radio show a couple times. A woman who's 97.
Oh, wow.
She has been down at the State House since the early 50s.
Wow.
As a lobbyist, and for some reason her name is escaping me.
Yep.
I just ran into her a few months ago when I was at the State House. And if you're down there, look for her.
Yeah.
She sits right in back of the Republican leadership. That's just where she sits.
Okay.
She was telling me that all right, Gertrude, there.
Okay.
Gertrude. Now, if I can get her last name, I'll be all set.
Yep.
She was telling me she served with all kinds of governors. She has served with Republicans, Democrats. She had kind words to say about everyone.
Yeah.
But she'd told me a couple years ago she has never served with a governor who was so ill-fit for that seat. And she said at 97, she will never live long enough to undo the damage he has done. Any thoughts?
Well, looking at where we are right now, I'm working on another research kind of commentary for the Ethan Allen Institute, discussing our healthcare premiums as opposed to the rest of the country, and they are now the first or second highest average premiums in the country. So we've done a lot of work and put a lot of money into the Healthcare Connect, the exchange, all of this IT projects, and it's the outcome has been very different than the intent.
Yeah, it just seems like, to me, it seems like everything he touched, seemed to have broken. With the exception, he did bring attention to the opiate epidemic, and he did do fairly well on the repair and the helping with the broken infrastructure following the storms.
Yep.
But I do think, because his decision not to run, and I know he says it has nothing to do with his electability. I think most people realize that he was going to go down as one of the first governors to actually lose his seat, because there was no way Scott Milne, who his family was connected to politics, but he wasn't.
Right.
He almost beat him without really any hardcore campaign. And so I think he saw the writing on the walls.
Yeah.
So who do we have for candidates? We have Phil Scott.
Yep.
And then we have another, Phil, I used to serve with him. He's a fine guy. He's a race car driver. He's a contractor.
Yeah.
Sue Minter was one of my very good friends. She sat right next to me, a Harvard graduate. Then Matt Dunn, he is I believe he's a former Google executive.
Yeah.
I don't know Peter Galbraith, even though he's really had a distinguished career himself.
Yeah, yeah, and it's actually kind of surprising because he is one of the more experienced diplomats, quite possibly in the world.
Right.
He had quite a bit of time in Iraq and Afghanistan, and there was some questions about his involvement with an oil deal with the Kurds and one of the Scandinavian countries that caused quite a bit of commotion and made quite a bit of money for him as a civilian not involved with government. So it's a very interesting combination of players there with Matt Dunn and Sue Minter and then Bruce Lissman as well is.
How did I forget Bruce Lissman? And we forgot another one.
Yeah.
Bill the Spaceman Lee
Yes.
of Craftsbury, the former Red Sox great, is running as a libertarian.
I think it's the Green Party. I believe. Yeah, yeah. It's probably even a little bit further to the left of Bernie Sanders.
Right. And I'm not sure what mountain range. Last time he ran, I was reading something. He wanted to bulldoze a mountain range down to give what country a little bit more daylight. Or
I forget. I remember that, but I forget which mountain range that he wanted to just level to create some more daylight for someone. Yeah.
And so we've got, and I'm sure there's other. I guess they're called fringe candidates.
Right.
But sometimes I'm very critical of the media because the media basically kind of decides who is a real candidate.
Right.
And I think we see that in the I have thrown my hands up over the national election because that's the media drives who is going to be in the general election.
Yeah.
I hate to say it.
Right. And it's pretty just seeing some of the news coming out of the Democrat National Convention, you're seeing some of the angst from that exact situation with the emails being leaked and showing how the DNC was almost intentionally trying to keep Sanders sidelines by keeping him out of the media or portraying him in a bad light.
Right.
And to go locally, there's another candidate for governor, Brooke Page, who is the only pro-Second Amendment Democrat gubernatorial candidate. So, but we don't really hear about him too much.
Yeah, you don't. Even though I see him on Facebook a bit. So, if you had to, are you into predicting races? Who do you think's going to win this race?
I don't know. I think Phil Scott has a great opportunity. He's had a really difficult job to stay the lieutenant governor during the past 7 years with such a strong swing to the left in terms of politics and legislative action, and then but he's got some good competition, at least in theory, from Bruce Lissman because he's spending a lot of money on advertising, but I don't think it will actually translate that much into votes. And
I think with Governor Shumlin being out of town, so often, I think the lieutenant governor already, Phil Scott, has plenty of experience already running the state.
Yes.
But with, primaries are funny things, as you know.
Yeah.
Is like, for example, back to the governor. The only reason when the governor ran as a Democrat in his primary before he was actually the governor.
Yep.
He had some very good folks he was running against in the primary. It was like Sue Bartlett, Matt Dunn, and some others, and very, very capable people, far more capable than He was, but when you start splitting these votes up, you never know where they're going to fall. And I look at the Democrats, and I think, well, that's going to be that's certainly going to be a hard one to call.
Right.
I hate to be too optimistic, but I think because Phil is such a centrist, a consensus builder, who is beloved by so many people in all parties. Even the liberals respect him. The ultra-right respect him. They might not agree with him. But on the other hand, I understand people's concerns. The one concern is that sometimes he stood right side, shoulder to shoulder, with Phil Scott, and not with Governor Shumlin, went right along with some of these ideas that have since failed.
Yeah, I think that goes back to the idea that he's had to really thread a very small needle over the past 7 years with not trying to rock the boat too much, being able to build consensus, and with such a large majority in the House and Senate and in the governor's office, there wasn't a whole lot of opportunity, so he had to really pick and choose his battles.
Right. With Bruce Listman, I think he's qualified for the job. I think sometimes it's nice to get a outsider in, but some people don't understand this. Is people think it's dirty politics if you start talking about somebody's record. No, that's not dirty politics. That's what you should be doing. But I think Bruce has gone a wee bit too far on his campaign, and I dare say that that is probably being run by somebody who doesn't truly understand Vermonters. Because I think most Vermonters understand. You can talk about somebody's record, but then there's the point where, well,
yeah, and you're right. It's a very fine line, right on the edge. Where it's appropriate to talk about a record, and then you start to get into a little bit more on the almost attack side of things, and sometimes it works. If you look at the national election with Trump saying rather outrageous things about someone else's record, it seems to translate pretty well. But when you're talking about Vermont, which is its own little microcosm of fierce New England independence, and then with a new wave of more centralist, liberal mindset, that it's difficult to. You have to be a lot more careful than on the national stage. And I think I think he's got some great ideas. He has great experience, like you said. But I think his biggest issue is that he is a Wall Street executive with a lot of success, running in a state where Bernie Sanders is also running. So there's these two opposing ideas that I think is going to be his biggest issue to overcome.
Right. And besides that is whether you'll even vote for Phil or whether you agree with his policies, he's kind of like a Jim Douglas. Jim Douglas, it was okay for people to criticize his voting, his policies. Yeah. But very few people could say that that Governor Douglas was not a good man.
Right.
He was, and no, I'm pretty certain. That Phil's going to win this race. Even though I'm going to tell you, he has Sue Minter, as I said, friend of mine. She's certainly. I've been watching her campaign now, and I'm thinking, Sue, you've done far more than just the Waterbury, or just the flood. So know, but then I see her talking her gun control issue. Well, whether you're for gun control or against it, that I wouldn't make that my number one priority in this. At this point, not in Vermont.
Right.
Matt Dunn, who I personally don't know, but he's always impressed me. Yeah. He's got to stop talking about Bernie and start talking about Matt. And so, because I think he does have a lot to offer.
Yeah, and he definitely has the experience at Google. As you know, I think in many ways Vermont is in the middle of a transition to a little bit more tech savvy infrastructure and job environment.
Right.
And so those qualities and experiences are going to be very, very valuable. But it's very interesting how I think Sue Minter has done a very, in my opinion, clever thing by starting the conversation about gun control, because it's one of the last bastions that hasn't really been touched very much in the State House, and so it's definitely got a lot of people talking about her.
But I think
moment.
it's probably done. I think it's because of a good reason. Is I'm not sure if that should be top priority at this point.
Right.
I will say one thing about Phil. I do like one thing is that he wants us to be back down to a 3-month session, because I'm sure you've spent time there. I've served there. Your mother's served there.
Yeah.
Or continues to serve. The more time you give us legislators, the more taxes we will make for you, the more trouble we will make for you.
Yeah.
And because not every state even meets every year, I understand.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing is at the beginning of session, everybody, some legislators just feel that if they do not introduce enough laws, that's how they measure success.
Right.
So I think cutting back, because the reason is it's hard for the average man or woman to serve in the State House now. It used to be, in the old days, the seasons were short, because the sessions were short because you had so many farmers. And you had to be out of there. So you took your time seriously. Because I'm going to tell you, I really respect the process to the most part.
Yeah.
But I'm going to tell you, if the average citizen knew some of the ways we waste their money, the one thing that totally stunned me, and I like to have a couple beers, don't get me wrong.
Yep.
But when the lobbyists and such roll out that bar, have you seen the Cedar Creek bar?
No, I haven't seen that.
Yeah, it's like, wow, this is in the State House. I felt like I was like drinking in a church, and it's at the end of the day.
Yeah.
But the thing is there is some things down here that legislators don't often talk about, and they don't bring it up. It's like you have some legislators who never go to their committee, and they're still paid. And I once asked people, how come the other side doesn't bring that up during the election? Because they said, well, because they too have people who are never there. But when it comes campaign time, those same dub-off legislators are out there pounding the pavement, saying that once they get there, they're going to rumble.
Yeah.
Don't happen. But for the hard-working legislators, I have a lot of respect for them.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we're leaning pretty much in the same direction of where the governor's race is going to go.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you, I can predict races pretty good.
Yep.
Lieutenant governor's race, I have no idea, and I know all of the main players.
Yep.
Keisha Ram of Burlington, I consider her a friend. I served with her. She's as sharp as a tack. She's been on this show. So there, she certainly goes way to the left. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. But she's a person I maintain a friendship with. Speaker Smith. What I tell people is, people who criticize him, it's all right to criticize people's policies,
Right.
But I'm going to tell you, I can't say enough about the speaker as a human being. He's a kind of guy that if I needed something on a personal level, he'd help me. I find that while I differ on his political views, he's a stand-up kind of guy.
Yep.
Randy
Brock.
Brock.
Yep.
I don't know him quite so well, but anytime I've dealt with him, he's a true gentleman.
Yeah.
He's well spoken, fairly soft spoken, and he doesn't, he's not colorful. He's very thoughtful.
Right.
And then David Zuckerman, I've served with David. Our worlds are kind of like worlds apart.
Yep.
His upbringing and my upbringing, his way of life versus mine. But when I served with him, we always had a very respectful, professional relationship. So I'm going to tell you, I think the lieutenant governor's race is kind of like the governor's race. We have some very good and qualified people.
Yeah.
And what are your thoughts on these people?
Well, I think that you're absolutely right. It's going to be a close race. Randy Brock is a great candidate. But he doesn't really have any competition on the Republican ticket. So there's not a lot of back and forth and press and media about it. He did a pretty good job against Shumlin in the governor's race a couple cycles ago, but didn't get elected, obviously. But he did a pretty good job. But you're right. He is kind of a little bit more on the soft-spoken side, which I think is good.
Right.
And then Kesha Ram has done a good job of really getting herself out there and being very active in a really short amount of time that she's been at the State House, and but does have, like you said, very left leaning, whereas Shap Smith tends to be a little bit more centrist, but still, supported and moved through a lot of legislation on behalf of Peter Shumlin, but is incredibly organized, very disciplined, but still able to have meaningful conversations with people of any political view.
Right. Yeah, and I think he has a very good memory too of that I have found on a professional and personal level. Hey, to flip back up though to the governor's race real quick. We didn't. So on the governor's race, we never said who do you think is going to survive the Democratic primary to be first?
I would actually put my money on Sue Minter.
Really?
The surge over the past couple of weeks and the past couple of days,
really,
especially, I think has been pretty exciting for her and her followers. And so whether or not she can maintain the momentum.
That's interesting. That's really interesting. Yeah. What about in the Republican gubernatorial?
I think that Bruce Listman will help the conversation by having Phil Scott be a little bit more concrete with ideas and future plans, but I don't think he's going to. Phil Scott is such a great consensus builder, and he's been so solid for so many years. I think that he's going to take it pretty handily.
In saying that, though, if it's Sue, because I know she's brilliant, going against Phil, that will be an interesting race because they're two totally different people in so many ways, and they're both very fine people in very different ways.
Yeah.
So that's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, back to the lieutenant governor's race then. So we have only as mainstream is Randy Brock as a Republican. But where are the votes going to fall with the lieutenant governor's race? With the Democratic lieutenant
with
governors.
the Democrats on that side. It's both Kesha Ram has been very active in campaigning. She's done a very good job of campaigning. David Zuckerman has done a good job of being very active in the legislature and led the fight for the GMO labeling bill and a couple other relatively large pieces of legislation. But how that translates into a statewide race, I'm not sure. But Shap Smith has a lot of name recognition, but it could be a little bit of a backlash because of Shumlin issues. So
yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
But have you noticed that none of the Dems for lieutenant governor or governor, they're not using Governor Shumlin's name too often.
Right, not very much.
You could see that I would dare say none of them would be happy to see him step up on the stage in their behalf, because
Right.
I think we're, my opinion, we're looking at a very failed, a failed governor, and but you look at all three of the candidates for lieutenant governor, the three Dems, and I'm looking at three very capable people, just people, because a lot of people think that you're supposed to hate the people that you wouldn't vote for. Absolutely not.
Right.
That's what makes the world go around.
Yeah.
If I had to predict, I believe it's going to come between Keisha. I think she said it's actually Keisha. I keep asking her how. I've known her for a few years now, but I think it's going to come between her and Shap.
Yeah.
I believe it will be Shap because unfortunately so many people vote according to name recognition. They don't even know what the person stands for. And now that isn't to say he's a bad guy, but what I'm just saying,
Right.
I think that's going to be the edge. But if Keisha wins, I think she's a very capable candidate.
Yeah, and another thing might be that voters might see, as they're looking on the ticket in November, that there's going to be a lot of momentum towards the R side, and so they may put a D on in the lieutenant governor's race just as a little bit of a counterbalance.
Right, and which is probably a good thing.
Yeah.
But all right, so since we really can't come up with who's going to be the Dem, how's Randy Brock going to be able to hold up? Because there's no doubt the man is brilliant. The guy is a nice man.
Yeah.
But sometimes being soft-spoken in politics, that isn't what attracts attention, and that's so unfortunate. Even though you look at Governor Douglas. He pretty much he didn't kick over a garbage can or holler too often, and he did it. But
Right.
can Randy pull it off in what is almost assured to be a Republican year?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question, and I'm not sure. There's so many things that remain to be unseen, and especially on the national stage. And I think that's where nationally could impact the state races a little bit too,
Right.
depending on how they go, who's got momentum, where Bernie Sanders starts to do some work on the state level as well, because that could be another factor, because he has so much momentum behind him from the national race.
Yeah, and we only have a couple more minutes left. I wish we had like 2 hours.
Yeah.
But yeah, the whole national thing, I don't care if you're Republican, a Democrat, independent, or conservative or liberal. I find this has been such a disheartening year. I feel that the one positive thing that has come out of it, we have found the true nature of national politics, and it's utterly corrupt. And I don't mean just with the Democrats either. I mean the entire system is in it. I don't believe it's new. I believe it's always been there. But I believe with this technology and people not understanding technology, some of these things are getting out there because of these emails and such. Media. I have had my share of working with the media, including the national media. I was interviewed in the last few months by a national reporter who used to work for El Jazeera, whatever. I can't say the name. El Jazeera. She now works for a network here in this country. And she said it's actually embarrassing sometimes to say you're a reporter, because they have their handlers have you focus on the candidates who are going to say something outrageous or illegal, And they said these poor candidates who are running, because we have put up some mighty fine this last, with all the Dems running and all the Republicans running, there were some fine candidates.
Right.
But because they weren't doing anything illegal or they weren't saying anything outrageous, they're just out there floating around. They just have good ideas.
Right.
and I just think that, I condemn the national media. I really do, because when I watch the media, I don't want to have right media. I don't want to have left media.
Right.
Just try to.
Right. Just report the news.
Yeah, try to report the news.
You would think that would not be a difficult task, but all of us have at least some bias, and it does impact some. But it's interesting to see that there's a change going on, even in the ratings and poll numbers with the national media. Fox, CNN, and MSNBC, they're changing as well as a result of it.
And mine is not a news show. Mine's a talk show, and I don't deny I have biases. Like, I as a history person, I still say I stick to my words about the Shumlin administration and say, hey, but I've sat right here and said, hey, we have some fine candidates running for both positions.
Yeah.
But you know what we ought to do? We ought to have you on periodically throughout the because this really has been an educational year for all of us.
Yeah.
I who consider myself pretty tuned in, I learned so much about politics, and I learned enough to really almost become so jaded. I don't know if I'm going to vote.
It's hard not to. I follow the media and politics daily, hourly,
right.
And it is. It gets pretty, like, you just throw your hands up and say, oh my gosh, not again.
Right.
And so it's difficult for folks to take it seriously, right. and that's a really big deal.
Right. In closing, I'll say this: it's hard to talk politics without mentioning Senator Sanders. Yep. While I don't always agree with Senator Sanders on his policies. He has been a big supporter of my work. He's been a big supporter of the people that I work with, the seniors and the veterans. So I don't agree with his world ideas all the time, but I'm going to tell you, I was very impressed with how he ran his race. I might not agree always with him, but he was consistent. He didn't resort to some of this stuff that other candidates did. I'm not really, the endorsement that I was hoping a little bit better of him, but I was really impressed by his campaign. I think he did an amazing job.
Yeah, and I think that and it ties back into what we were talking about just a few minutes ago, that a lot of his momentum and Donald Trump's momentum comes from the folks who are disenfranchised and a little bit jaded. And like, okay, just because you say it's your turn doesn't mean we want to vote for you. So,
absolutely.
Yeah.
We could go on forever, because I do believe the rise of Bernie Sanders and the rise of Donald Trump, even though they're very different, they're one and the same almost.
Right.
And I think that's why both parties worked so hard to derail them.
Yeah.
And, unfortunately, the Dems were able to do that with Senator Sanders, and they just were not quite able to derail Donald Trump.
Yeah. And with his media savvy, he actually turned it into his advantage.
Right. All right, in closing, who is going to win? Who will we be calling president in November?
With what we have seen so far, I can't even guess. There's so many possibilities. There could be new candidates.
Right.
And that's a situation where if Gary Johnson gets to 15%, he could start being on the national stage. That affects it. Jill Stein from the Green Party could pull some from Hillary. So there's just so much left to happen that I don't even know.
Okay. All right. One other race, your mother's race. Will she be serving once again?
I am pretty confident. She does such a great job. She's such a good advocate that I think folks are pretty excited that she's going to stay down there.
Okay.
Yeah.
And thank you for coming on, and we'll have to have you back on. Maybe we'll have to have your counterpart on here, whoever that would be.
Sounds good.
Okay. And thank you to the viewers for tuning in to another segment of the Northeast Kingdom Voice.